Hi there, welcome back to the channel, and this weekend I am going to be taking this gentleman's Elroq 85 edition out for a test drive to see how it works, not in the lovely sunny places that car companies invite people to, not me, but we're going to see how it works in central Scotland for a family. So this is Stuart, he's from West End Škoda in Dunfermline.
Morning.
And we've known each other for a scarily long time. I've been buying cars off and on here. I just worked out for the last 25 years, which is terrifying. So Stuart's got his car, which is a green Elroq 85 edition, and I'm going to take that out. But Stuart is actually going to be doing something particularly crazy. He's such an enthusiast for Škoda, but I'll let him tell you all about that.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I've been with the brand a number of years, so as well as loving all the new product, I still have a bit of a crazy notion to drive and own a proper older rear engine Skoda, so I've organised to pick up, purchase, blind a 1988 Estelle in Prague and drive it home.
Yeah, so I've done that in my dad's Estelle before, and it's not like driving a modern car. I mean, it was 30 years ago, but it's not going to have any of the refinement you get in a modern Škoda. So
no, I'm sure it'll be fine. What can go wrong?
Take my hat off to you, Stuart. It's a very brave move, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the car back here, and maybe we'll do a little bit of videoing of it when it gets back here.
Absolutely, definitely, would love to do that.
Brilliant. So stay tuned if you want to see particularly
traditional
Škoda experience all the way from the heart of Europe in Prague back here to Dunfermline.
Almost in Timiano Green.
Exactly. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, so as you saw in the introduction there in the dealership, Stuart has lent me his 85 edition Elroq. It's in the same green colour that I saw when I was in Mlada Boleslav when they revealed the car to us for the first time. Obviously they're everywhere now, everyone sees these cars on the roads. But when they've released cars to the usual car channels on YouTube, even Matthias Speicher, he's working with Škoda, and they're showing you the cars in I don't know, press preview conditions. So all the big YouTube channels got invited out to, I think it was the Canary Islands, somewhere warm and sunny, and they have the car for a limited amount of time. And if you've only got a car for a short amount of time, there's a limit to what you can actually learn about it, test about it. So what Stuart's done is he's given me this car. I'll bring it back to him tomorrow afternoon, and this is just a standard weekend. We've got lots of tasks to do as a family. So how does the Enyaq cope with that? So the car is at 97% at the moment. It's showing 247 miles of range. The heated steering wheel's on because it's only 5 degrees today, so it's a little bit chilly. It's too warm, I'm going to turn that off. Interior wise, this is a loft edition, so it's similar to the loft on the Enyaq, but not quite the same. One of the things I really do like about it, and it's been annoying me in the last week in my car because we've had a lot of sunshine, the chrome on the door handles and the trim on the dashboard in my car are very shiny chrome, and when the sun catches those it can dazzle you, so you almost need to wear sunglasses because of your own car dazzling you. In this car it's got the new matte finish, which is much nicer, and this loft finish is a little bit darker than it is in the Enyaq. It's quite a light grey colour in the Enyaq. This is darker, but it's really nice. And actually, if my cameraman would pan down here to the centre, this is the same as it was, you're probably too close there. This is the same as it was on my Enyaq 60. This is matte. Now that is ideal because I can rub my hands all over that, and there's no fingerprints picked up, and it stays looking nice and clean and fresh. My old car had that. For some reason, when I went to the 85 edition, that is fitted in shiny black piano gloss finish material, which all car manufacturers seem to love, and which shows every speck of dust and every fingerprint that ever goes near it, and it's horrible. Why do people do it? I have no idea. Thankfully in this car they've gone back to what they had before, and it's a really good development. Right, one of the reasons I got the Elroq this weekend is that my wife has actually spotted some Elroq advertising on TV, and it sparked a curiosity. So it's probably still too big a car for her. She's currently got a Volkswagen Golf. she's not massively tall and she doesn't really need a big car, and this is probably still a bit big for her, but it did spark her curiosity, and I said, well, we could always get one for a test drive. When I spoke to West End, Stuart, who you saw in the intro, actually said, well, why don't you take it for a weekend and make a video and see what you really like about it. So that's what we're doing it. But you know, it's the real purpose was to get a short test drive for my wife. But while I've got it, I've driven it so far back from the dealership, so that's been 24 miles, and I've driven it on the motorway. I've driven it on the M8, the M90, and it feels much like an Enyaq. However, if you've seen my previous videos, you'll have seen back in September I drove the Elroq when it was still a prototype on the test circuit, the test polygon it's called, near Mlada Boleslav, and it was a really fun car on the twisty slalom circuit they set up for us through the cones, and basically driving like maniacs around on the test circuit. Now, when we were driving the Enyaqs, we were allowed to do what we liked, but actually the guys from Škoda said, don't go crazy in the Elroq, it's still a prototype. But even then I could tell it felt really like driving my old Škoda Yeti, which I got back in, 2011 I think I got that car. And it was a really fun little package. Very similar in size, and I think the Karoq is basically the modern equivalent of the Yeti. And this is the electric version of the Karoq, it's the Elroq. So that's no real surprise that it feels such a similar car. So I'm not going to drive like Miss Daisy on these roads, but equally I'm not going to drive in a kind of full throttle way. So hopefully in a fun way, and I can get a feel for the handling. And already I'm feeling this is able to go through these bends. It's not wallowing around, not that my Enyaq wallows around, but it's not, I don't know the words. It feels more sure-footed through the bends at speed than my Enyaq. The Enyaq's a big car, and this is just a little bit shorter, and I feel it feels more nimble, it feels more planted on the road. Yeah, it's hard to really put into words, but it's what I hoped it would be when I was, like I say, thrashing it around the test circuit in the Czech Republic. So really good fun, and yeah, it's very reminiscent of a car I bought back in 2011, and that was probably the most fun Škoda I had. And I know there's a lot of fans still of the Yeti out there who wonder why they ever stopped making it. Well, this is probably a fairly fitting successor for that. So that's a positive difference. How about any negatives? Well, I haven't looked up the detailed spec of what these cars come with in the UK, but I know this is an edition. It's an 85 edition, so it's fairly well equipped, but it doesn't map across straight like my Enyaq edition does. On the Enyaq edition I have got matrix headlights, this doesn't. I have got travel assist, this doesn't. And the real thing I'm missing, and it's muscle memory, is I haven't got paddles. So when I'm approaching bends, I am automatically flapping my hands around behind the steering wheel, and of course there's nothing there, there's nothing happening. So it's, yeah, I mean, that's just muscle memory. If you haven't driven an Enyaq with paddles and you don't regularly drive like that, you will not notice any difference. This is a bumpy old road, and the Elroq is soaking up the bumps with ease. It's a really good fun to drive. Okay, let's take a look around the car. So the main thing about the Elroq that's different from certainly the previous generation Enyaq is this front face, the tech deck. When they explained it to us in Mlada Boleslav in the design centre, they said it was inspired by the Mandalorian's visor on the helmet. That's probably designer speak, but you know, take that with a pinch of salt if you like, but I think it looks quite good. Do we prefer it to the distinctive grille on the Enyaqs, or the previous generation Enyaqs? Well, that's really a matter of personal taste. It's apparently much better aerodynamically with these vents down the side there for airflow, and it's certainly quite a striking car. It's really very similar to an Enyaq, and the interior, I'll show you inside here. I showed you some of this in my video from the Czech Republic. Now this is a production version, and you can see this is a loft trim. So it's fabric, lots of emphasis being placed on sustainability and recycled materials. So it's really, if you've driven an Enyaq, it's very, very similar. There's not a lot of difference. And why would there be? I mean, it's a great interior in the Enyaq, and that's not a bad place to start. In the back, in terms of legroom, there's loads of space. I mean, so I am 1.76 m, which I think is, in old money, 5'9", 5'10". So I'm not the tallest, but even when I got in this morning, Stuart is much, much taller than I am, and I got in, there was loads of room back here, even in the seat in his driving position. So yeah, loads and loads of room back here. Not that I ever sit in the back of the car. And of course, the Edition spec, you've got triple zone climate control as standard. So if you've got passengers in the back, they can set their own temperature. So yeah, it's ideal for family duties, it really is. But it's all very, very familiar if you've ever been in an Enyaq. Okay, so far so familiar. I've said everything in the cabin feels very familiar. If you had an Enyaq, then you'll be very much aware of what there is in the cabin of this car. It's very, very similar. So what's different? Why is there an Elroq and why is it different from an Enyaq? Well, the answer is all back here in the boot. So this is where the big difference is between the Elroq and the Enyaq. It's in the boot. This is smaller, not noticeably smaller. When I look at this, it's still a big boot. I don't know the difference in the litres. I'll overlay that on the screen, but to be honest, when you're thinking about the car, what do you think of? Do you think of how much stuff you can fit in it, or do you think of the number of litres? So what I'll do when I get back to the house is I'll dig out some bags that we use for going on holiday, some cases and that sort of thing, some trolley bags, and we'll see how they fit in. But the acid test for me is, if I look down here, can I reach back there to get something out the boot without getting my trousers dirty on the bumper if it's a wet day? And the answer is here, no, I can't. Like I said, I'm 1.76 m, but to reach the back there, I'm having to touch the bumper down here. It's a good size, but you can really tell the difference when you lift up here. So in the Enyaq, there's a bigger area underneath there, probably about twice the sort of depth that way. Is that the, yeah, I'd call that the depth. Twice the size that way, front to back, that there is in this car. But you could still fit your cables in there. But of course you don't have to, because they've come up with this little attachment under here where you can put your charging cable in. That is actually a very clever idea, and there is no reason whatsoever that could not be put on the Enyaq Coupe. So there's an idea, Škoda. Why don't you offer that to us? I know I would buy that as an option. And one other difference, I looked earlier and I saw there was only one light up here. Now in the Enyaq you have two of those on the tailgate, so I thought, have they just gone cheap? But actually no, they haven't. They fit another one down under here, so that is probably quite clever, because yes, the lights up on the tailgate are really bright and they illuminate the area very well, but actually sometimes you want something down there inside the boot, so that's all good. Now one other thing which lots of YouTube reviews have said is a really breathtaking, very clever new feature, but it's not new. My son has it on his 2017 Škoda Fabia, but it is still a clever idea. Let me show you. Now, what do we call this in English? It's called a parcel shelf. And in the olden days, I guess, it probably made sense. You could put parcels on there. But in a modern hatchback, like my Enyaq Coupe, if you put parcels on there and then open the boot, it tips up and all your parcels will come off. So what Škoda have done is they've brought back this feature. Like I say, it was in the 2017 Škoda Fabia, probably earlier ones, but my son happens to have a 2017. There are mounting points here on the side, and what you can do is you can take your parcel shelf off and you can put it there as a shelf, and you now have a split level boot. If you did have parcels to carry, I was trying to think of something delicate, maybe cakes. Say you were going to a wedding and you were transporting the wedding cake. You needed something delicate, you didn't want to put it on the shelf, you didn't want it down here with all your other stuff. You can put it on there and then it's nice and safe. It is actually fit for parcels. So well done, Škoda, for bringing it back. How could I forget one of the main criticisms that is always levied at the Enyaq on social media, Facebook groups where I see Enyaqs criticised, is the cup holders. and people complain that the cup holders are too tiny. I raised this when I was meeting with Škoda and with other owners in the Czech Republic, and they all looked at me like I was crazy and said, but it fits standard cups. I don't know what it is in the UK, but people seem to complain that these cup holders, and they are the same in the Enyaq and the Elroq, don't fit cups. There's a cup, it fits in perfectly. It's a brand called Circular. It's a recycled, reusable cup. It seals, and it keeps your coffee warm for a couple of hours at least, and it fits in perfectly well. So I don't actually see what the issue is, but let me know in the comments if you have a giant American sized cup that you find doesn't fit in the Enyaq or the Elroq. So there we are. My cups fit. If yours don't, then you've probably got some of the giant American sized cups that seem to be so popular these days. The solution, you can buy adapters apparently. I don't know where they're from, but I've seen them online, and the easiest way really is just to buy a new smaller cup. Okay, a quick look at the software. This car's got 5.4 on it, which is an advance on the version I saw in the Czech Republic. Are those icons slightly different? Maybe. I would have to sit and do a side-by-side comparison with my car. There's nothing leaping out at me that is radically different. Power pass map is all there. That's the same as on my car. I don't ever really use that. I tend to use Android Auto and Electroverse or a better route planner, but it's there. What else is there? The shop looks the same. Traffication's the same. Yeah, I don't really see that there's anything massively different. Maybe if you've got an older car, you can point it out in the comments. I have got an older car, but I can't see the difference. It's not immediately apparent. It's all very, very familiar. The top menu, very similar, although you can obviously customize that. So Stuart's got different things than I have. But yeah, really all very similar. So what's the moral here? Well, to be honest, people are getting really worked up online about software versions. It's human nature. People want the latest number. If there's a higher number, I want that. The way it was explained to me in the Czech Republic by Škoda is that the software version matches the hardware. So the original cars have version 3 software. The 2024 model had new hardware installed, which brought things like battery preconditioning. They've got version 4. 2025 hardware was added again, gives things like remote locking and unlocking of the car, so they get version 5. Next year, presumably version 6. Who knows? Doesn't mean that these cars aren't still being updated. We've had announcements in the last week that my car on 4.0 will get 4.1. I have to go to a dealer to do it, which is not great, but it's all being sorted next month. 4.1 cars are going to get over the air, and so on and so forth. Who knows what will happen in future? I don't think Škoda are helping themselves with their version numbering, because as we've seen here, my car's got 4, this has got 5.4, looks much the same to me. So I think they could probably simplify the version numbering and give themselves a lot less grief from users who just do the human thing and want a higher number. Anyway, I'm going to carry on my weekend now and film some more content, which you will see in a second. Right. So the whole point in borrowing the car this weekend is so that my wife can test drive the car. She's driven electric cars before. I had a 2017 Nissan Leaf. We had a Renault Zoe for a little while. That was really good. And then she had a go in my Tesla Model 3, and that was just way too big and heavy. So this is the first time in a Škoda EV. So how's the Elroq been? Has it been hard to drive?
No, it's very easy to drive, very comfortable. I find the visibility poor because the pillar blocks out my visibility and the wing mirrors are huge.
But otherwise, quite
easy to drive, nice and comfortable.
Yeah, the first request when we got in it was, can we go somewhere nice and quiet and I can just get used to the controls, but that took about 5 minutes, and you can a duck to water almost. You've just been
country roads.
Yeah, now we're travelling around some country roads, and it's all good so far. There's nothing complicated about it at all, is there?
Nope.
So comfortable enough, and so my wife's actually not the tallest in the world, and so I was worried that this might be far too big a car. So does it feel massive?
No, I currently drive a Volkswagen Golf, and this doesn't feel, it feels higher up, but doesn't feel any bigger. Comfortable drive, the seat is adjustable, up and down, everything, every way you want. Steering's comfortable. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, because seat adjustment is one of the things that you find difficult in a lot of cars.
Yeah,
so
he's wanting in here.
This is all okay. Right, we're gonna have to move. Right, that's the end of day one. It's 5.5 degrees. It's 8:15 at night. So I've had the car for pretty much all day. I think I picked up about 9:30 this morning. So nearly 12 hours, 11 hours I suppose. And in that time we've done lots of running around, the sort of stuff that families do. We've had 4 adults in the car, we've been out for dinner, been across to my mum's, picked her up. I've just dropped her back at home. She wanted to borrow a power washer, so the boot was loaded up with that. My wife's taken it out for a test drive. She really liked it. I think the biggest compliment I heard her pay it was, it feels like my old Audi A3. She had an Audi A3 probably about 20 years ago now as a company car, and felt it was a really solid, well planted on the road car, and she said this feels like that. So praise indeed. I think she thinks it's better than her Volkswagen Golf. So this might be a candidate to replace that, or maybe the Epic when it comes out next year might be a candidate. We shall see. In terms of performance, the economy has been quite good. We've done 100 miles exactly, and that has averaged out at 25 miles an hour. So there's obviously some in-town driving, there's been some local roads, and also some motorway driving. Everything's been done at the speed limit. And I started at 97% charge, and I've now got 63%. So that is what, 34%? So just a smidge over a third of the battery, and it's done 100 miles. So that would suggest when it's 5.5 degrees, I think today it got up to about 9, then you can expect a 300-mile range out of this, the 85 model. I don't even know if this car's got a heat pump or not a clue. And I can maybe ask Stuart tomorrow and I'll overlay it on the side. But yeah, 300-mile range out of a car when it's 5.5 degrees, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so we know that the Enyaq is 17 centimetres longer thereabouts than the Elroq, and we know how many litres are in the boot. That's all published on the website, but what does it mean? I don't know how many litres I carry. So what I thought I'd do is gather all the bags I can find and fit them in my neighbour's car, which is a first generation Enyaq. So these are all the bags that we actually have as a family. I couldn't find any more, which is lucky, because these all fit exactly in the Elroq. So we've got a big 100-litre sports bag, and then last but not least, my Škoda backpack. So what have we got in there? We've got 4 trolley bags of varying sizes from large to small, my camera bag, which is quite a big bulky bag, my Škoda backpack, and a 100-litre bag. That's what fits in a standard non-coupe, i.e. the estate edition of the Enyaq. Right, let's repeat the process in the Elroq. So I'll pack these the same way I did, and already I can see it's not as deep. So there we can see the boot isn't as deep, and yet there's not really that much of a massive difference between the two. So yeah, it's a smaller boot, but is it really a massive difference? That's kind of every bag we as a family of 3 own, and I'm sure you could find lots more to put in, but yeah, it kind of fits. So not as big a difference as the figures might suggest. Thank you very much to my camera assistant this morning. Okay, so I've now had the Elroq. This is the Elroq Edition for 24 hours. I'm just about to take it back over to West End in Dunfermline and hand it back to Stuart. How has it been? Well, it's been really, really impressive. My wife loved the car, as you will have seen from her little clip that she put in the video earlier. She really, really enjoyed it and felt it was comparable to her old Audi A3 in terms of feel. She doesn't like the massive wing mirrors. Personally, I don't notice them, but she really feels the size of the wing mirror compromises her visibility. She feels that that's quite a downside for it, but other than that, she really enjoyed driving the car. Okay, so I was a little bit harsh on the car in terms of what the Edition spec comes with. I still think it's a little bit mean compared with what the Enyaq comes with. That's probably more a reflection of how good the Enyaq Edition is in terms of equipment. But what does the Elroq come with? Well, it says over and above the standard equipment that the SE has, it has 19-inch Regulus anthracite alloy wheels. It has unique dark chrome roof rails and window trim. I'm not sure that I would call it dark chrome, but yeah, it's got chrome around the windows and on the roof rails. Privacy glass and acoustic side windows. Yeah, the privacy glass in the rear is dark, the same as on the Enyaq. Travel Assist Plus. I actually didn't realise it had Travel Assist Plus when I was driving it on the motorway, but it does. It has the exact same autopilot system as the Enyaq, and it is an excellent system. It's really very, very good, so that's a major plus point. Keyless entry with walkaway locking and child safety locks electric down here in the door. Wireless charging, 15-watt wireless charging with cooling function, so that's better than the Enyaq. And USB-C ports in the front and rear, and those are 45-watt charging, it says here. So other than that, predictive adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist, good, and it charges at 175 kilowatts. I would need to actually check the spec sheet for my own car. I think that's better than my car. I think my car does 135, but I couldn't swear to it. Unless you do lots of long journeys though, that's probably not going to come into play. I've had my car for about 10 months now, and I have yet to see charging faster than 135 kilowatts. And in fact, when I think about it, the fastest charging I saw was when I had the car on loan from West End. I was taking it for a test drive. In my ownership, I've never actually done many long trips as yet, or certainly not long trips where I've got the battery so low that I want to charge it up. So I've gone down to Birmingham, but I then came back from, well, it's actually the far side of Birmingham. I did 300 miles and I didn't stop to charge. I've been down to Stafford and back, but again, it's not something I have actually driven the car so empty that it will then get the really fast charge. So you know, it's almost an academic issue these days, because if you're like me, you'll probably drive for 2.5, maybe 3 hours and then stop and charge, and that isn't long enough or far enough these days to empty the batteries down on these cars so that you'll get a really top rate of charge. Anyway, so yeah, the car has been fantastic. I have been complimented by I think 4 separate people on how great the colour is. I'm not actually a fan of the green colour, but clearly some people are. And it is very reminiscent of one of the old 1980s colours that was on the rear engined Škoda 120, 105, or as they were known in the UK, the Estelle. It is very reminiscent of one of those, and you know, that's obviously not a bad thing. There's lots of retro around these days. Škoda haven't actually come out and said that's what they've done, but it looks like it to me. Anyway, I hope that is of some use to you now. Really, this car, a great package. I'm not going to be buying one, but it remains to be seen whether my wife has been persuaded to buy one. She was certainly very taken with it, so who knows, we may become a 2 Škoda family in the near future, or should I say a 3 Škoda family, because I've got the Enyaq, my son has the Fabia. Can we make it a hat trick? We shall see. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope it's of some use, some interest, and I'll see you in another video very soon.